So again, welcome in folks that are here, and this is the class. It's Webex meetings for judges. Now we have several different classes. We have ones for clerks, hosts, judges, and so on. They all pretty much cover the same content. However, I kind of tweak them a little bit to try to get the things that judges might be more interested in learning about or knowing about. I'm not always accurate with that, right? So that's why I like to get feedback from you folks and questions, and if you have anything like that along the way, you want to know more about a particular topic that I mentioned, or maybe I'm not mentioning something you'd like to know about regarding meetings, let me know, and I'd be happy to cover that if I can. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get this thing closed. And by the way, people that just joined in, this reception deck that greeted you, I am going to go ahead and just let you know that I will show you how to do this a little bit later. And I do have a little bit of information to share with you, which came about just, I think, yesterday or so. And it's regarding the interpreters. A lot of judges have some questions around interpreters and the kind of the issues that causes. And we do have a little bit of information for you to check out regarding that. It's basically just information regarding how to get it set up. Basically, you contact class. They have a whole process they put together for you. So if you have any issues around interpreters in your courtroom via Webex, I will have some info for you a little bit later. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get things going here. So first of all, I'd like to say we are all joining this Webex event as an event. So all of the trainings that I do, I set them up as events. I find it a little bit easier to manage as far as, throwing a link out there, everybody could share it, and then anybody could join in and be, watch the training. However, meetings are a little bit different. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the difference between events and meetings, and understanding the primary reasons we use one or the other. First thing, though, and the most important, would be when it comes to the events piece, we use that primarily right now because it offers a link so that the public, the general public, can view a hearing, a remote hearing. And it provides a link for them to be able to select, and then they can get into the system, and then they can watch and hear. So that's the primary reason why we use events. Another reason why we use events is because it's designed for, as you can see here, a situation where you may have a large group of people, not in this case, but if you have a really large group of people, then it helps you control larger audiences. So you can kind of think of major events that may be outside of the OJD realm, major conferences, things like that, where you may have hundreds of people in attendance. If you let them all control their own microphones and turn off and on their own cameras, that could be a little distracting. So the events tools allow us to basically mute everybody and only allow the unmuting by the host or someone designated to do that. So that's kind of why we use events. It's nice in that fashion. Now, meetings, on the other hand, a little bit more intimate, but as we move forward in time, I think the meetings tool is becoming more and more robust with these updates that are happening. You may have heard of some of them. We've got July update already occurred. We have the August update, which already occurred, and I'll mention some of the features that came with those updates. And then September, a couple of real big updates that we're really looking forward to. And then October, we're going to have another major update as well. So they are upgrading and updating the products. And I think as we move forward in time, it's not going to be that much difference between the two, meetings and events, which I think is a good thing. But meetings, of course, designed for more intimate audiences. People in meetings, generally speaking, have control over their own microphones and cameras. So that allows for a little bit more interactivity, more of an intimate feel, more of an actual meeting. You can see people's faces and so on. It's possible in the events as well, and you're going to see that actually. I'm going to turn on everybody's, not turn on your cameras, but I'm going to go ahead and make you all what are called panelists. So if you would like to share your video and audio, if you have questions, you can now ask them via audio when I get that set up for you. And plus, I wanted you folks, since we're talking about meetings anyways today, I wanted you to have a more meeting-like experience while you're in this training. And also, it allows me to show you some options that we can only see if we have a bunch of people showing on the screen at one time. Okay, so let's do this. Does that prompt any questions from anybody, by the way? So let me just double check real fast. Looks like we're okay. Okay. I was going to throw a poll out there, but there's only a few of you here today, so let me just go ahead and ask you, and I could do this with a raise of hands. Your experience level currently using Webex, whether it be the events piece or the meetings piece, I would go ahead and just ask, would you say that you are a beginner or a novice? Raise your hand. And if you don't raise your hand, I'll assume that you are a moderate to advanced user. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is the scheduling of meetings. Now, this isn't a feature where you folks are going to be, again, this is for judges. I don't expect you guys to be doing a lot of scheduling. All right, so with that, let's get back into it here. Scheduling of a meeting within for Webex. I'm going to give you the light version of this. Let's just use the chat, I guess. Let's just since that'll be fair for everybody. Go ahead and let me know. Do you currently schedule meetings? Yes or no? And if you do schedule meetings, excuse me, if you don't schedule meetings, you'd like to learn how. Let's just ask that real quick. Go ahead and let me know. So not going to be scheduling any meetings. That's a one no. Anybody else? Okay. So it's yes or no. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'll make sure it's brief, but I want you to kind of see how it works. So the number one thing is anybody who wants to schedule a meeting would need to have a host account. The scheduling of meetings and the scheduling of events are different. They have different options, different features to them. So we're going to focus on the meeting side of it, and we'll go through it again. Just a quick and easy version of it. Give you the basics. The goal here, though, I have, guys, is you may not be one scheduling these meetings, but seeing the options that are available may help you be more informed on what is possible in these meetings when they're scheduled, right? You could say, oh, hey, I saw during class that this was an option. Did you consider that? That's kind of the way I would look at it. All right, let me go ahead and share that with you. Let me get to the right spot. Sure, I am there. And then I will go ahead and share that with you. You should be able to see my Google Chrome page that is open. And I've got my home page is what I am currently looking at. And you'll notice up here at the top, I've relabeled my name to the ETSD training and also the URL for me. I've done that, by the way, and you can do that. You can change it to anything you like. But I changed it for me when I send out communications. I like to do it on behalf of the training versus my own name. So that's why I changed that there. But right here, folks, we have the schedule meeting button. So pretty straightforward. You log into Webex, and you will be taken, or you should be taken when you do so, to this home page for yourself. When you get here, there's a schedule button. I simply select that button, and you're off and running. So that's a pretty straightforward process. Once you get into here, you have two options for meeting type. I know judges sometimes like to conduct meetings or may need to conduct meetings that are audio only. So there is no computer involved or app involved or mobile device involved. It's just phone. That is possible through Webex. You can select the meeting type and change it to what's called a personal conference. And that, in essence, makes it an audio-only meeting type. So it just provides phone numbers and the code to get in. Once you get into that meeting, you're in an audio conference. But generally speaking, they're going to be the Meetings Pro, which is the standard meeting type. You will throw in a name, so put in the topic for that meeting. You can change the password to what you like, or you can use their made-up one. The date and time is set simply by selecting the date and time link and choosing what you need. If you want to recur the meeting, you simply choose recurrence and then choose the different recurrence options down below that you would like to have. Be aware, though, this is something that not everybody knows. I get this question a lot. I used to get it more often. But if you want to have a meeting that is the same information over and over again, so I'm going to send out a link, and I want everybody to be able to use that over and over again. I want it to have the same ID number, the same phone number, all those types of things. If you want that to happen, then you'll need to recur the meeting. So if you have one meeting and you recur it, let's say we meet every Wednesday, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to create the meeting, make it a recurring every Wednesday at 3. And when you send it out to everybody, every time they join that meeting, it's the same ID, it's the same login information every time. So that's the way you can kind of get around that. The attendees is simple. Just simply type in their name. It will add their name down below. And you can see here Amy, who is set up as an alternate host. So if you're going to be scheduling a meeting and you want somebody else to be able to assist you within that meeting, you can designate them as an alternate host. And you do so simply by typing in their name, selecting it. Once it's added down below, you'll notice that Amy has an icon that my other attendee does not, and that's the little torso there. Notice it's blue. So if I click on that, it'll turn white. If I click on it again, it'll turn blue. If it's blue, that's indicating visually to me that I've let Amy be the alternate host. And then Amy could start my meetings. You can do whatever I need her to do regarding the meeting. So basically, she can run it. If I don't want her to do that, I simply unselect that. It turns white, and then she'd be just a regular attendee at that point. So that's how you can invite people. And you can come back, of course, later on and add more folks to it if you needed to. And then real quick, the advanced options is where you would go for doing things like audio connections. The scheduling options is nice to have here. Do you want only OJD folks to be able to attend the meeting? That's the require account option. Alternate hosts, that just means I can designate Amy as an alternate host up here, but you know what? I'm not sure. There's a handful of people that might be the alternate host. You could choose this and actually let anyone at OJD that has a hosting account run your meeting for you if you want it. It's kind of a catch-all, big umbrella, but it could be useful in certain situations. Automatic recording. You guys noticed at the beginning of this, I started with the recording process. I had to do that manually. You can come in here and set that to automatic, and that way every time you have a meeting, it'll automatically record for you. And it is visual, by the way. It does let everybody know in the meeting that it is being recorded, so you'll be aware of it. So if you didn't want that to happen and it started, you could just stop the recording. Exclude the password from the email. If you want to send out an email and kind of keep the meeting invites exclusive, don't include the password. That way, if they accidentally forward it or intentionally forward it to other people that you didn't invite, they won't have the password and they'll have a little bit more trouble trying to get into the meeting. Registration, if you want to actually have a registration for it, you can do that. Again, there's several layers to it. I'm not going to go into that. And then meeting options are things that you would allow attendees to be able to do. I'll talk about this in detail a little bit more. But chatting like you guys are doing today, you can turn that off if you like, not allow it. Allow people to take notes. And then finally, attendee privileges. These are things that you allow the attendees to do. So anybody joining your meeting can do these things. And I'll talk about this also in a little bit more detail as we go through some of the sharing. But saving things I share, right? If I share a document with you guys, it'd be nice for you folks to be able to save it. Printing, annotating, so if I share a document or that whiteboard, you folks can draw on it if you wanted to. It allows for more interactivity. So if you're going to set up a meeting, these are the things that I was talking about regarding, you may not be the one scheduling it, but seeing this, you now know what's capable, right? What it's capable of doing. And if you feel like you're going to have a meeting, and in that meeting you really like to have a lot more collaborative effort going on, Webex does offer some tools that helps with that. And right here is where you would go to get those things set up. So again, we're going to actually play around with that a little bit so you get a good idea of what I'm talking about. And I will describe these features when I get to a shared document so you guys can actually understand what each one of those means. All right. So you can set all those options up. If you wanted to, you could schedule it, and it would schedule and you'd be all done. Right? Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to actually schedule anything. that blank. Well, I kind of just got to go through that one screen with you and let you see, how straightforward it can be, how easy it is to do, and then some of the options that are available to you may not be aware of. That'll help you kind of, mold that meeting to what you want it to be able to do. So, all right, let me jump out of here. Back to our Webex. And I knew sometimes that prompts questions, and it looks like it did. So let's see here. Can you record a video, and specifically, can I record an appearance where I may need to document it as they are not in person, such as a charge, a plea, right? You can record a video, and you can, so basically, the recording aspect of it is kind of generic in nature, right? So if you want to record a segment of your, let's say you have several cases that you're going to hear remotely over a 1 hour or 2 hour period, you could turn off and on the recording as you would like. So if you are the host, or you can have somebody designated as a host, they can go down to the bottom of the screen, and there'll be a record button for you down there. Matter of fact, if you haven't seen that before, I'll show that to you real fast. So you guys are looking at my window right now, my event window. And right down here for me, I'm the host, and I'm the only one, by the way, that can record. So whoever is designated as the host will be the one that actually clicks the record button. And if it's only for that one situation, it would record it. When it's all done, they could stop the recording, and that recording would then be saved to the cloud. If you start and stop several recordings within one meeting, it will produce that many recordings in the cloud for you. So if you started recording 3 times during one meeting, you'll have 3 recordings saved for you. And then, of course, once they're saved, you can then access them, download them, do whatever you need to them after that. Again, but only the host has access to those recordings, and only the host can hit the record button and hit the stop button.
And if I can jump in real quick, Angelo, on
Sure.
that, specifically speaking to the record, if you're wanting to record the video, Webex is the only way to do that. However, you do want to still make sure that if your normal process is, to route this into your Polycon system and record it through FTR, your clerks or tech people probably know how to do that, that is still going the entire time if you're starting and stopping the Webex video during a hearing or a couple of change. If you have change of pleas in a row, a few in a row, something like that, you want to make sure your normal recording device is going in the courtroom as well.
Yes, thanks for that clarity. Yeah, so we're not speaking of official recording, right, of the record. You would want to still do that way you would do it, like Amy mentioned. This piece is just to get that specific video information, if needed, get it recorded. So thank you, Amy. Thanks for clarifying that. All right. Any more questions just about that little piece, guys, before I move on? All right, excellent. So let's see here. You all arrived in this event today, and on the way in to the event, I'm switching gears on you, by the way. On the way in to the event, there was a screen that appears that allows you to kind of see what you look like if you have your camera going, and also be able to, change your background if you needed to. Again, if you had a camera, if that situation was turned on. I know you guys may not have seen that for this particular event, but meetings are always going to allow that option. So anytime you participate in a meeting, or if you're hosting a meeting, as you arrive to that meeting, your preview window will appear, allowing you to change your background, make sure your camera's working, make sure your microphone is muted or unmuted, what have you. And then you then click on the Join Meeting button, and then you are in. So what I want to talk about a little bit is that situation, and then also once you land into a meeting, based upon if you're the host or just a participant in the meeting, what are some of the things that you should do right away that are kind of more automatic, right? So like muscle memory. So when I get here, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to check this, make sure this is working properly, right? All those things that you should probably do when you join into a meeting. And again, learning about these features, you can also help others if they have issues with their joining of a meeting. All right, so what I'm going to do is this is the time, guys, that I'm going to go ahead and switch the view for everybody to basically a grid view, like you would see in a meeting. So I like to kind of warn everybody ahead of time. Number one, I'm going to make everybody in here a panelist. So we'll all have equal rights as far as our abilities within the event. What I mean by that is camera off and on, as well as your microphone off and on. So from this point forward, if you have a question, you're welcome to absolutely just ask it verbally. But I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And the screen will change a bit when I get that set up. And that should throw everybody onto the screen. And again, if you would like to use your camera and share it, feel free to do so. If you do not want to do that, that's okay as well. But I do want you guys to be able to see this view. Now, the first thing is once you land into a meeting, with that recent update that just occurred on the 8th of August, so just a short while ago, the default screen that you will get is going to be this screen like you see here. So it's going to be what's called the grid view. That is the default view you will get when you join a meeting now. In the past, it wasn't set that way. The default view was, I think it was your self view was large, or the active speaker, and then everybody else was in thumbnails. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of my sharing here of my screen and let you guys kind of see this all for yourself on your own screen so you can be able to manipulate it. So with this set up, what I want everybody to do is you take your mouses and hover over your screens. Now, again, guys, I'm assuming we're all in the same environment. The people that are using the browser-only version, the results may vary with this, so be aware of that. Hover your mouse over your screens. In the upper right corner, you're going to see two circular dots there. And if you hover over it, you'll notice one says Grid View, one says Active Speaker and Thumbnail, and another one says Active Speaker Video View. So number one, make sure you're in the Grid View. But if you want to go ahead and click on those other ones, go ahead and try them out, see what they look like to you. You can kind of get a feel for the differences between them. One of the things they did was they made the grid view the default because that's the one everybody wanted to use anyways, and that's the one most people switch their view to. So the grid view is the most popular view, and that's why, I'm happy to say it is now the default. Remember, events, right? If you actually are going to be doing an event, it doesn't have the same default view anymore, or at all. It hasn't switched yet. So if you need to change your view, you have to do it manually, like we're doing it right now. And by the way, we are an event, but these tools are very, very similar when you're in a meeting. Also, you'll notice there's a button that allows for a floating panel view that may be available for you, and that allows your panels there on the right-hand side to become floating and movable. Not that big of a deal, for that. I do want to show you, though, however, some view options when we get to the sharing aspect. So whenever something's being shared, there are some view options available to you that you probably will really like to use that may not be aware that they were there for you. Primarily splitting your window. So when you join a meeting and you're watching somebody share a PowerPoint, or you're the one sharing the PowerPoint, sometimes that part of the screen becomes small. Maybe the content is unreadable, that kind of situation. And maybe you want to keep your eye on the participants at the same time. Meetings now has some tools available that let you do that a little bit easier. So you can make the document nice and big and still have the grid view on. It's smaller. It's over to the right-hand side in a panel, but there's some features that are nice that they now have set up for view. So I think you'll probably like that. So let's take a look at, actually, let me look through here real quick, make sure I got everything covered for this piece. Actually, yeah, this is a good time to talk about it. Since we're talking about logging in and just setting your view and making sure everything looks right, what happens if you do have issues logging in? A lot of times, we get a lot of questions around people trying to log into a Webex meeting or an event, and they have trouble doing so. We have found, for the most part, that's due to getting into the meeting or the event the information may be missing, or meaning I tried to click on something, right? Click on the join link, get into it, but my computer that I'm on, or my laptop or tablet, whatever it is, it has cached the wrong information. Like, for example, I can send a meeting to myself, my Gmail email account, right? Just for testing, I do that a lot for testing. I can send that invitation to my Gmail email account, and I can go to my Gmail email account on my phone, and I'm sure this may have happened to you in the past, and there's my invitation, and there's a link that says, join meeting. When I click it on my phone, it goes through the process and it lets me join my meeting. However, when I get there, I'm not me. I'm not my Gmail account. I am my OJD account. So you would think, I send it specifically to this email. From my phone, separate device, I clicked on the link and it took me in, right? Because what happens in certain situations is your computer remembers things. And when you click on a link, it'll take you in there and just assume that it's account X. And I've seen this happen with some judges and other folks, that an iPad example, they'll click on a link to join the meeting, and when they arrive at the meeting, they can't get in. So why couldn't they get in? Because when you invite somebody to an event or a meeting, folks, and you use an email address, just usually how we do it, that invitation goes to that email address. When you click on the link to join, that email address is supposed to go with you and be presented to Webex, and Webex can verify, okay, this is someone that was invited to this meeting. You are good to go. In you go. Problem is, when you click that join link and that email comes with you, just like I mentioned, when I tried to join, I was another person, right? I was my OJD account, not my Gmail account. It sometimes messes that part up. So you go to join a meeting for OJD, it's supposed to be an OJD account that you're joining. Sorry, I'm rambling on about this, but it happens a lot. You get there and it's switched your account information, and so it sees your other email trying to get into this meeting, and you weren't invited. So that's a hang up. So really, what I want to say about that is, if you go and try to join a meeting and you have connectivity issues, right? It doesn't allow you in. Not that the meeting's locked or some other problems. Check the way you accessed it. If it's through your cell phone or your tablet, that may be causing a problem, switching accounts on you. Or if you can, get on a computer and do it through your normal OJD email. That would be the best solution for you. It's kind of hard to kind of navigate those waters, when you're trying to do it on the fly. But that's just a heads up, more than anything. Is if you try to join a meeting or an event, and you can't get into it, even though you know the password, that's another trick. You put the password in, still doesn't let you in because you weren't on the list. And again, there's a lot of variables involved. We can't go down those details, but that is definitely a possibility, and we've seen that several times. Just wanted to throw that out there for you. So connectivity issues are a problem, but that was probably one of the most common issues that people had if they can't get into one of the meetings. Let's see here. So another thing I wanted to mention, and one of you are having this issue today, and that is the viewing of the content. So sometimes when you join a meeting, you may miss out on some of the content being shared, videos, whatever it might be, and that is primarily due to the application, right, the app that you're on. So if you're going to join any meeting or event with a mobile device, like a tablet or a phone, then you may miss out on some of the content that's being shared. Another thing is you may be on a computer, but when you go to join, you join via the web browser only. And if that's the case, you'll also miss out on some features, like that hand raising feature, for example. So just be aware of that. If you can, you always want to join meetings through the desktop app. If you're on your phone, however, or your tablet and you're joining a meeting, make sure you're using the actual app, right, the Webex app for that platform. Don't join and choose your Safari web browser, for example, to join a meeting, and don't choose Chrome. If you're on a device, mobile device, I always go with the app for that device. Chrome is fine, of course, if you're on a desktop computer. That's the way we normally get to them. So I just wanted to mention some of those issues you may have there. So once you land in your meeting, we talked about the different viewing options that are available. Upper right corner of the screen, you can change that to whatever it is you prefer. I always turn on my chat panel. That's the number one thing I do. I also turn on my participant panel as well. That just helps me understand who's there and see what's going on. Things like the hand raise. Visually speaking, it's clearest when I have my participant panel turned on. So if you're going to be hosting anything and you want to be able to kind of keep an eye on anybody raising their hand or what have you, keeping these panels turned on is definitely helpful in that regard. There are some more features available to you through the More Options button in the lower part of your screen there. So along with all those other buttons, there's a little triple dot. That's the More Options button. And there's a few things as a participant you'll get less. As a host, you'll see more. But there's options in there that you can also choose. But what I want to show you in here, though, is, again, related to issues you may have. Speaker, microphone, and camera, if you guys check that out for me. If you're able to click on that, I want to show you a couple of new things that have shown up in there. So again, more options, and then speaker, microphone, and camera. Go ahead. Hey, there he is. Hey, John. How are you? So with that open, you'll notice we now have test buttons available. Let me go ahead and show you this real quick. I'll flip it over to my screen so you can see what I'm looking at. You guys should see the same things, right? You've got a test button available now by speaker, and you have a test button available now by microphone. So at the beginning of this meeting, one of us had a problem with the microphone, right? Or you couldn't hear what I was saying. So this is a nice place to go just to check that out real quick and just make sure your audio equipment's working. Also, if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see there's a change virtual background listed there. So you can change your virtual background during the meeting if you wanted to. I wanted to show you that that's a good thing to do ahead of time, right? So you land in the meeting. You want to make sure that if you're going to be on camera, using your microphone, that those things are working properly, and you have the right ones selected, right? Sometimes it's simple as you don't have the right microphone selected. Maybe you unplugged something earlier, plug something else in, that kind of thing, and that's an easy way to find out. Again, that was more options, and then speaker, mic, and camera, and then you can choose to test these if you wanted to. I always have mine automatically adjusting the volume. That way it kind of keeps track of, if I get excited, it doesn't go crazy, right? If I speak a little softer, it picks up for me, which is nice. You may have saw this, 4-beta mode. That's brand new. That came out in that last update. This is actually something I wanted to mention since you folks may have encountered this problem before. And I've only done minor testing with it because it's, when you look at it in music mode, that's not for OJD. But what it does for you is, I don't know if you've had this personally happen, but if you're in a Webex meeting or an event, either one, and you have audio issues around people chopping or cutting each other out, right? You get echo sometimes, or you'll get a delay. So if somebody starts talking, you can see their mouth moving, but no sound is coming out, and they're not muted, right? And then a couple seconds after they start talking, then you can hear what it is they're talking about. So I discovered I used 3 different accounts. I logged in, and I left all the mics open. And with music mode, it cancels or takes away all of those automated audio things that help us normally. But what it really does is it kind of opens up the audio channel, so anybody who speaks can be heard, right, as long as they're not muted. And it takes away the echo and some of the feedback that you'll get. So you might want to try it if that's a problem when you're having hearings or just when you're having meetings, and you're going to want to eliminate some of that. I found it to be helpful. The issue with it, however, is part of our audio, and you may not be aware of this, but we have noise canceling that happens through Webex automatically. So if you're in an environment where you have like a refrigerator running or something like that, you get a little hum. The audio that we currently use that's not music mode kind of takes care of that for the other people in the room or in the virtual room. Music mode would allow that to come in. So you're going to get a little bit more background noise with that. All right, enough about that. Looks like any questions? Nope. Looks like we're good. All right. So understanding some of the roles that are involved. So once you get logged in, you get your screen set up the way you like, you check your audio, everything's looking good, and you are a participant in a meeting or an event, either way. People in that meeting or that event will have different roles. It's likely that in a generic meeting, you are going to see a host and everybody else are just going to be panelists just within that meeting. Or it could be a situation like today when you came into this event, you were all designated as attendees. And I raised your level from attendee up to panelist. And that's what you guys are all now. So different roles have different meanings. So it's important to understand that if you join a meeting, you're participating in a meeting, and you have a question, if it's a pretty involved meeting and there's different people with different roles, it may be good to know who you're supposed to ask the question to, right? So that chat feature may be limited. So just be aware that there's different roles in there. So just to cover some of the basic roles, you'll notice I am the host. Amy, it doesn't have any designation beyond being a panelist. However, let me show you this real quick. I might as well keep my event window shared with you guys so you see this stuff. If I take my mouse and hover over any one of the panelists' names, and if I perform a right click on it, you will see I get a change role to. So folks, if you need help in one of your meetings, you can designate different roles to anyone in the meeting. That means from being the host themselves, like I want to transfer hosting roles from me to someone else, or maybe they want to share information with the audience. That's what the presenter role does. Whoever is the presenter is the person that can share information. Panelist is what she currently is. An attendee would be the way you would lower her privileges from panelist to attendee. This is what is used in remote hearings quite a bit. If a case needs to get called and attorneys and clients need to be brought up, if they appeared as attendees, you would then right-click on them and promote them up to a panelist. Once they become a panelist, they can control their camera and microphones themselves. You would then be able to see and hear them. And then when they're done, you would be able to lower them back as attendees. Remember, attendees do not have control over their own mics and cameras in an event. So remember that. And then host is what I mentioned earlier. And then polling coordinator is something that most likely is not going to happen. You guys saw that polling question I ran by you earlier. Or did I run that by you? I can't remember. I don't know if I used it or not. But polling coordinator allows someone else to handle the polling duties. So if I have a poll that I want you folks to answer, I talked about interactivity earlier and different ways you can interact with your audience. Polls are a really, really good way to do it. You can get them all created ahead of time, save them, and then use them during the meeting or event, either one. And you can then throw those out there to your audience when needed. However, if you're flying solo as a host, that's a little bit cumbersome, and it can cause more issues than it helps. So sometimes allowing an individual to become the polling coordinator, they can kind of do all that, and we don't have to worry about doing it ourselves. So that's what the polling coordinator does. Within a meeting, there's a little bit of a variation there, but for the most part, you're going to see very similar options when it comes to different roles that you can choose. I do want to mention there is a new role that's coming in the next update. The next update has already been announced. We've shared the update with everybody, but the new role is called co-host. And I don't want to confuse things further because you're going to say there's an alternate host and now there's a co-host, right? For meetings, the alternate host verbiage or terminology is going to go away. It's going to be replaced with a what's called a co-host. And co-hosts pretty much have almost the exact same rights as a regular host does. It's just alternate hosts didn't have enough privilege within a meeting, and they figured, hey, why not? Let's just let a co-host be able to do 95% of what a regular host can do. Things like record, start a meeting, all those types of things. So that's coming soon. Just FYI for you there. Okay, let's go ahead and get that stopped. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more in depth around sharing. Sharing of content. So when you all arrived here, you guys saw I had a PowerPoint file going. So first of all, let me ask this question, get some clarity around it. Have you, or do you feel the need that you're going to be one sharing content in the future? You can just answer in the chat or raise your hand. Either way works for me. I've got my eye on that. You guys feel that you will be sharing content or have shared content in the past? Okay. So it's a possibility and maybe not, right? Not likely. Okay. So let me, absolutely. Thank you. So let me just talk about this. So sharing of content, what does that mean exactly? So if you're participating in a meeting or if you are in an event, either one, and somebody wants to share content with that meeting, they have several different ways of doing it. And so even if you're not going to be sharing content yourself, but it sounds like I didn't really see that in the answers, then I'll show this to you. I'll kind of keep it a little bit lighter than I normally would. But it's really important to understand the differences between how something is shared and the benefits of that. So let's just say, for example, you attend a meeting and someone, maybe a fellow judge or what have you, is also there, and they have some great document that they are sharing with everybody. Now, the first question might be, if it interests you, you might want to get a copy of that. And our normal answer is, sure, I'll send you an email and I'll send it to you that way. But there's also the ability to have that document available right there and then for everybody to download and have a copy of it right there without the need to email it afterwards, right? You may not get it as soon as you want. You may want to start researching on whatever topic is right away after the meeting. Maybe it's something that you're interested in. So if they know how to share properly with the audience, and if it's something they want to do, then this is a nice feature. Again, this is meetings and events as well. So let me kind of show you what I'm talking about here. When you share stuff with folks within a meeting, people normally go with a screen share. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you all can see what it is I'm trying to show you. The next way to do it would be sharing an application. So that would be, I want to go ahead and share my Microsoft Word with you, or my PowerPoint, or my Excel, or what have you. And that would be another way to share, maybe a PDF file. Or the third option would be, I want to share a file with you. So each one of those has its benefits. And for the most interactivity and the most, most options, the sharing of the file is the best way to share that I found, especially being a trainer and doing this a lot. Sharing files with people allows a lot more flexibility around what you can let the audience do to that file. So I can share a file with you and let you all be able to save it on your own computers if you want it. I can share a file with you and let you guys annotate on it. Maybe there's a document that I want to share with an audience. Maybe if you have a pretty big audience, say there's 20 people in your meeting, and you've got a document you'd like them to look over because we're going to discuss it later in the meeting. That's kind of a weird situation because it could be where, okay, I'm going to share it and people are just going to sit here and read, right? And it's going to be a quiet meeting. Well, you can handle it by going, all right, I'm going to share this document with you. And we're going to take a break, right, in 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to look through this. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and everybody, right, do what you want. Webex allows that functionality to actually occur. I can share a document with you, and you can thumb through it on your own, like it's your own document. So you can page by page. You can navigate however you want. You can save it. Do whatever you wanted to, if I allowed that to happen. And so that's the key to all this, right? If you turn on the right switches, all this cool functionality becomes available. So even if you're not going to be sharing, sounds like a couple of you are not going to be doing this. Knowing that it's available, and you may, maybe you're helping out somebody else, or maybe your JA is going to have a meeting, and you're going to go over some new business process with the clerks. You may say, you know what, let's go ahead and throw that document into the WebEx and let everybody have access to it right there. Knowing that is kind of cool. Right? So let me show you how that's done real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one more time. This is actually not sharing my screen. It's called sharing my event window. It's not used very often, except if you're me and you train WebEx a lot. So you should all be able to see my screen now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up that PowerPoint that I had earlier. So I'm going to go to Share Content, and I'm going to click on the Share File. You'll have to scroll down just a bit, and right there is the button that says Share File. And that opens up my file window where I can go find that file. Let me go ahead and go up one level here. And there it is right there. This message will come up letting people know that PowerPoints, if you want to share them and they're dynamic, they're not going to work in here. Dynamic meaning they're automated, the automated animations and bullets and transitions. It's just giving you a warning, letting you know if you're going to put a PowerPoint in here, make sure it's kind of plain and vanilla. Okay, so guys, what I want you to do is, now that this is being shared with you, hover your mouses over the screen, and on the left-hand side of your screen, you should see a little toolbar that appears, and in it, you'll see a plus and a minus that allows you to zoom in and out. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen with you in just a second. And also a little arrow that allows you to page through it. So I'm going to stop sharing my event window. I'm only sharing now that slideshow. Go ahead and try it out. See if it will zoom in on you. See if you can thumb through those pages on your own. You should be able to. And if you got a hand raised, let's get a hand raised, see if that works for you. Just make sure that it's working okay. Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. That's nice, right? I mean, so again, I'm tossing these things out at you folks, and really the idea behind it is just to let you be aware that some of this stuff, this functionality is there. And being a judge, the meetings that you might either attend or conduct yourselves, these are nice little tools to allow. So, if you're a judge, you're going to have a meeting. You may not be the one scheduling it. You may not be the host of it, but you're going to be the main speaker in the meeting, for example. And you want to share documentation like this. Well, let the host that's doing the scheduling for you, right? Let them know, hey, these features are in here. Let's check them out and let's try it out. Also, I want you to, again, hover over your screen there, and you'll notice there's an annotation button, a little squiggly line. Go ahead and give that a click, and that'll open up what are called your annotation tools on the left-hand side. I know there's only a couple of you in here messing around with this, but if you'd like to try those annotation tools out on the slide, feel free, and you can see what that does for you. So again, you got to use your imagination regarding, things that you might be able to utilize with this feature. Maybe you're going to have a meeting and you want to be able to have some input on something. You could throw either a slide up or a whiteboard up there, and people can annotate on it. So I will draw something here real quick just to see if I can, you can put lines. You can draw free-form style, whatever you need. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. They have check marks available that you can do if you wanted to have somebody, put pointers. You'll notice some of the buttons have little arrows next to them. Those are optional choices that you can have. So I could do X's. If you want to have a grid of some type and you want people to fill it in for you, you throw it on the screen. People can then go in there and fill it in appropriately. Thanks, Amy, for your annotation. I appreciate it. At least I know it's working. It's working right. So that's annotating. Again, annotate. Hover over your screen. Click on your annotation button. That'll open up the tools on the left. You should all be able to do it. And then type in text. Do whatever you like. You can erase stuff too. But one thing I wanted to show you was you'll notice that if you have that annotation toolbar open, at the very bottom of it, there's an arrow pointing downward. That allows you to download the document with annotations on it. Hey, there you go. Oh, Richard's here. Hey, Richard, how's it going? Richard snuck in. I'll go ahead and make you a panelist, Richard. We've only got a handful of folks here today, so this afternoon. So Richard is here. I mentioned at the beginning, guys, that we have a little bit of info to share with you regarding interpreters. So if that's something you want to know more about, Richard is here to kind of just talk about that. And if you have any questions, he can answer those for you. So Richard, do you want to go ahead and just take care of it now, knock that out, and then we'll move along? There he is. I can't hear you, sir. It doesn't show you muted. Are you saying, can you hear me now, I wonder?
All right, now can you hear me?
There you go. There you go. Excellent. All right, guys.
Using a different audio connection.
See, I know. I just told everybody earlier in the training, right? If you have audio issues, where to go to, right? Test it, make sure it's working. You are a perfect example of somebody using that for real. So that's actually awesome. We didn't even plan that. Okay.
So I'm a sign language interpreter with Court Language Access Services and part of the remote interpreting team. And we just wanted to make you aware that we can do simultaneous interpreting. Let me bring up a quick slide here real quick. I'll share.
I can make you the presenter real fast. I'll go ahead and.
Oh, great. Thank you.
No problem.
So the majority of cases being heard right now when you have an interpreter are being done consecutive. Of course, adding an interpreter into the mix adds a layer to the complexity. And so we just wanted to bring it to your attention that we can do simultaneous interpreting and that we're open to working with you to get that figured out in your court. So let me bring up this slide here real quick. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Excellent. We've had a few judges contact us. They've done consecutive, and one judge even described it as painful doing it that way because it can basically double the time it takes to do a proceeding. So if this is a concern that you have, or you know you're going to have a case that's going to require interpreting, we encourage you to contact your class scheduler and request some additional information, or you can even contact Ed Aletto, and his email address is there. This file you can download if you'd like and save this information, but we'd be more than happy to work with you and get this set up in your courtroom. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions about interpreters or how that process works, or does not look like we do. Guys, if you want to get a copy of this, this is exactly an example of documents that you can save while you are in a meeting or an event. So if you don't want to jot that down, you can go up to your file menu if you have one. Again, if you're on the browser-only version of this software, then you may not have that file menu. But on the file menu up top, folks, if you go to File, you should see a Save or Save As and then from that Save menu, it should say Document. You can click on that, and then your standard file window will open. The only thing I want you to take note of is when you go to save it, if you are going to do this, make sure the very, very bottom option says Save as Type. Change that to a PDF.
Then I've also added it to the text box, the chat, so you can copy and paste it from there as well if that's easier.
Excellent. And then again, once you've selected PDF, then you can go ahead and save it where you like on your computer, and you'll have a copy of that. Yep.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Angelo. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, it's good. Good timing. Just looks like everything's copied over. We're good. I don't see any questions popping up. So thank you very much. I guess you don't need to hang out anymore. You can just pop in and out now.
Sounds good.
We got this down. All right. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it, Richard. You too. So again, folks, during that process, you will notice that I let Richard be able to share that content with you. As a host, I can designate anybody I like to be the presenter. Remember, when it comes to sharing content within Webex, only the presenter can do so. You will notice that in the list of panelists on the right-hand side, you will see that my name has a little ball there. It's a little circle there, and that is the visual indicator of who in the room is designated as the presenter at that time. You'll notice that I just handed that role over to Richard when he showed up. There's two ways you can do that. So right-clicking on somebody's name and changing role to, I showed you this earlier, that will do it. You can also actually grab the ball itself. You'll notice that when I hover over it, I get a four-headed arrow. I can actually click and drag and drop that on to Amy's name, and it'll move. And it prompts me, do you want to change? I say yes. And Amy now becomes the presenter. Now, what's interesting to Amy, I discovered this, and you'll notice that the file that Richard shared is still being shared, even though I switched the sharing to you. You could now share a file with everybody, and they would stack. So Richard's file would share, and your file would share. However, if I took back sharing and became the one sharing a file, yours would then go away. It was an interesting quirk that I discovered. Sorry, guys, this is kind of a little bit of a side conversation, but it's important to understand regarding the sharing aspect. If you want to share content in a meeting and you have a slideshow you want to share and you're done and you want the next person to go ahead and go, be aware that when they become the presenter, the content you're sharing may drop. So just an FYI for you. That's how it normally actually behaves. Okay, I'll go ahead and take that back from you. And by the way, anybody who becomes the presenter can hand that presenter role on to whoever they like. So once Amy became the presenter, she could then take that and make anybody else the presenter. Again, it's one of those things that if you know about it ahead of time, know that it's there, then it makes that a little bit smoother process. You get 50 people in a meeting and they don't know how to pass the baton, so to speak, to the next presenter. Then the host would have to do it, and it causes more interruption. So again, one of those things that knowing about it is nice. So if you are in a meeting and you have some stuff to share with people, and you're one of three presenters, knowing about that little ball trick and moving the presenters along from one person to another is nice, and it makes things a little smoother. Okay, let's see here. Just testing, looking at my outline, making sure I've got topics covered for you. Any questions in the chat for me, folks? Does not look like it. All right, so while this file is up, earlier I talked about different view options that are available to you. And this is only available if things are being shared. You'll notice that the screen you're looking at currently is laid out in a way that you may not like, right? Or maybe it's okay. To me, it's okay. It's got a big screen there in the middle for my document, and at the top, I've got some thumbnails of all the different people in the meeting. Take your mouse now, though, if you would, and hover over your screen, and you should see an option available now called the side-by-side view. If you see that, go ahead and give it a click, and you're going to notice the screen layout changes a little bit for you. So what's happened is your shared content has now gotten larger, which I like, and so it helps in that regard. But the video feed is still live, but now it's docked into one of your panels on the right-hand side. And from there, you can actually go in and have different viewing options within that miniature panel that you see there. If you have the side-by-side view turned on, within this panel, you could then have different options like the grid view, and it would give you a mini grid view. Or you can have it set to active speaker, so the person doing the presentation that you're looking at would be the one showing. Now, unfortunately, when we have an event like we have now, the right-hand side of your screen that has that little area for the camera view, in an event, we don't get the option for a mini grid view, but in the meetings, we do. So just be aware of that. All right, does that prompt any questions for anybody? Anybody got anything for me on that one? Okay. One last thing about sharing files and a benefit of sharing a PowerPoint file specifically. Let me go ahead and flip this back to my event window so you see what I'm looking at here. And guys, this is important. So if you are sharing information in a meeting and it's going to be done via PowerPoint, and I've had actually a lot of questions about this, especially early on. And at the beginning of all this whole thing, when we started using Webex, either it wasn't available or I wasn't aware of it, one of the two, or both could have been possible. And that is, when it comes to PowerPoint presentations within Webex, it felt quite a bit limiting, meaning I'm going to do a PowerPoint. Normally, in a real world physical situation, you would go to, let's say, some kind of conference, what have you, and you'd have a laptop, you'd have a projector screen, and if you're familiar with PowerPoint, you would put your laptop down, launch your PowerPoint, and there's view options built into the PowerPoint tool that allows you to project the slide onto the screen. But on the laptop screen, you would have the slide as well as your notes, your speaker notes. If you're familiar with that, right, that's a nice way to do things. But Webex, if you share your screen or if you share your application, your PowerPoint application, that people will see the notes. It's kind of like you couldn't hide them, especially if you're working with just one screen. So Webex created a feature that if you are actually going to share a file and that file is a PowerPoint, you now have access to PowerPoint notes. You'll notice down here, again, you will only see this when you have a PowerPoint running. Right down here in my More Information button, if I give it a click, there's a panel that I could open that is my PowerPoint notes. And what this allows me to do, right, is to review my notes as I'm showing the slide, and no one else can see those notes. People can't see my screen. They don't know that I'm reading through the notes or what have you. So in essence, it's the same effect as having, a projector, shooting onto the wall and you having a laptop, almost like two different devices. So I thought that functionality was fantastic. So if you're going to be doing any presenting at all, or if you know people that are going to come in and they say, hey, Judge, I need to, I got a slideshow in PowerPoint. Is that going to be okay in Webex? Does that work okay? You can now say, yeah, it works great. If it has notes in it, you can even turn those on and view those. You don't have to print them out and have them, as a separate piece of information. All right, so go ahead and stop sharing my screen with you, but I wanted to show that to you specifically. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this document. Every time you stop sharing a document, by the way, it does always prompt you if you'd like to save it. That way, if any annotations were done on it during that time, those would also be saved along with the rest of the content of the document. Okay, let's see. We've got everything covered pretty much. I think that's about it. I'm just looking. Sure, I've got, yeah. Amy, you might have anything else you wanted to share? We are a little bit ahead of time today, but there was only a handful of people, so we didn't get questions like we normally do. But if you had anything to add or you want to mention that I completely skipped over.
No, nothing for me, Angelo.
Okay, excellent. Anybody have any last second questions they have or any comments you'd like to make? Okay, it does not appear so. So with that, folks, I really appreciate your attendance. And if you do have any questions for me afterwards that you can think of, just let me know. Again, my name is Angelo Jordan. I am. You can email me, you can Teams me, whatever you like. I'd be happy to answer those for you. If you guys need any help in the future with getting things set up properly or just learning a little bit more about it, maybe you want to get your group in to learn a feature or two, just let me know, and I would be happy to help you with that. With that, I want to say thank you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye, everybody.